Hey everybody, welcome to my live, welcome to my replay. So I accidentally went live on my page, my profile, which is fine, I can do this. I meant to go on my business page. But it's all good here because all my videos end up in the same place anyway, on YouTube. So, welcome everybody to Waxing 101, where I'm gonna teach you everything you never knew about waxing and everything you never knew you didn't know. So this is kind of awesome. I have my little, my notes here that I've been taking. I've been getting a lot of questions, and the really cool thing, hey Jessica, hi Jerry. The really cool thing about what I'm gonna do is I get a lot of questions probably every day with my customers, my team members, with anybody who's ever been, just even strangers who use Chalk Couture products, and there's such a varied choice in what you can do, what you can create, what you can chalk on, what you will use, and how to use it, and what's the right way to use the wax. Well, when we first started out a long time ago, we actually had a different use for the wax. But now that we are, we have reformulated some things, it's evolved. And so I want to tell you all about how to use it, when to use it, when not to use it, and when can it make your life just a little easier. So, all right, so let's first chit chat. Actually, here's what I'm going to do. Let me go down to this screen real quick so that you guys can see. I need to adjust my camera just slightly. There we go. And I forgot to turn on my lights, so let me do that as well. Okay. Now, the first thing we're going to chit chat about on my list is what Chalk Couture boards do I wax. Now, you may think, so let me get there. There, I'm in the corner. So you may think that I don't wax any Chalk Couture boards, but that is actually not true. There are times when you are going to realize that you need to wax the boards. It really is a case-by-case basis, depending on your chalk, what your chalk is like, what your board is like. So I'm going to show you Chalk Couture boards. We have two kinds of boards that I would wax. So any of our boutique board, Yes, boutique boards. I don't have their names in front of me, and so that's why I just was like a little bit crazy. Hi Judy, hi Tia. So the boutique boards, we have framed and we have unframed, and we have the board and base. So there are actually 5 different boards. Well, if you include the different sizes too, there are multiple. But these boards, they have a very special coating, okay, that makes them reusable over and over. And I created this without waxing. This is a great example of using this board and not needing to wax. But let's say you're using a transfer, and every single time you peel that transfer up, some of your chalk is lifting. It's either drying too quickly, but it's not coming with the transfer. That is a clue that I should wax this board real quick, okay? So wash it off, dry it off, wax it. Anytime you have any issues with chalk sticking to a surface, it could be there might be some like residual oils on here that need to get cleaned off, or you can wax and it always will take care of it. So any of these boards may need to be waxed just based on the project you're doing. Any of the boutique boards. It's a really great surface, very reusable, but it could be waxed. All right, so that's number one. You guys have pens and pencils, you're writing this down. Number one Chalk Couture board that could be waxed are any of the boutique boards with our finish. Okay, I'm gonna set that aside. The other board, and remember, I told you why we wax this board. It's because of wanting that chalk to stick better, to adhere better, okay? So there are two reasons why you chalk boards. One, to make the chalk stick better. Two, to protect your transfer. Two different reasons. All right. Now, I should have thanks Michelle. Hi Michelle. I should have done like a little outline, but here it is. I just told you the two reasons. One, to get your chalk to stick better. Two, to protect your transfer. Not always, you don't need to do both because I'll tell you why. So our next board that I would wax is our box frame. This I'm waxing for a totally different reason. The chalk is gonna stick to this like nobody's business. It's awesome. It's wood. This is actually raw wood. It is stained, but it's raw. You can get a splinter. There are fibers of the wood that are raw right here. This is a real chalky flat finish that if you could see, I don't know if you can see, but a little bit of that can come off. It's a very distressed, I call it loose, like it's a loose finish. Okay, so when we have these boards or anything else like it, this is what Chalk Couture carries. You have 3 sizes. I wax this because it's going to protect my transfer. The chalk will stick fine, but when I put a layer of wax on this board, and don't worry, part of my little thing tonight is showing you how to wax. So when I put wax on here, now my transfer is gonna stick to that finished surface of the wax and not the loose finish of this like kind of dusty light paint or whatever it is. Okay, does that make sense? You guys getting something? So these boards actually, you can use front and back. I actually am using something that I've already created, and that was my hayride. I did it on the back because I wanted the dark wood to be the background, and I waxed this too because this is stained but yet unfinished wood, and we know that wood is actually porous and actually contains fibers which will stick to our transfer, limiting the life of our transfer. The more things that stick to your transfer that you can't clean off, the fewer amount of times you'll be able to use the transfer. So I've been able to use transfers dozens and dozens of times because I take care of them and I'm using them on certain surfaces. Like over and over on a surface like this, no problem. Over and over on a surface like this, it will continue to pick up fibers from that wood, and then that sticks to the transfer, and it doesn't make it reusable. It doesn't make it as useful in the future because you cannot pick those fibers off. They don't come off like lint does when we fuzz transfers. So the 2 boards that Chalk Couture carries that I would ever wax, boutique boards, framed and unframed at any time, and our our box frames. Okay. Now, how about boards that we carry that I would never wax? And these, you know, it's always an option, but you should never ever wax our porcelain steel boards. Our porcelain steel boards, those are our, what is the word? What do they call them now? I forget. Those are our like flagship boards, if you want to say it. Those are the boards that have the 50-year warranty. They're fabulous. Those are our Aiden boards. They're beautifully framed. I've got one right there, okay? Those boards never need to be waxed, ever. They're beautiful, gorgeous. The chalk sticks every time. The surface is perfect. You just fuzz your transfer when you use those. Okay, so now we talked about Chalk Couture boards. Now let's talk about found items that you may want to chalk on, and will I wax them or won't I wax them? So signature, thank you, Kate. Signature boards, those are our signature boards. So, so found items that I will want to chalk. Many, or not chalk, but wax. So these are some old boards that I had left over from last season. So I don't even know where I got them or if you can get them again. So don't ask. To put it nicely, I pulled them out of my back room. This is a painted chalkboard that was pretty inexpensive. I think it was like a couple, $3. And I don't know what this surface is. I don't know if it's good paint, if it's cheap paint, if it's stuck well to the particle board or whatever it is that this is on. So I want to protect my transfer. It feels like the chalk would stick just fine. It doesn't feel plasticky, but I think I would wax it because it will protect my transfer. So that's a reason why. It's a valid reason and something to think about. This, I do remember where I got this. This was from last year. It's an ornament, and this is for my countdown to Christmas, so days till Christmas, and you write your number here with a piece of chalk, and you have it decorated with that transfer. But you can even see the finish. This paint is coming off. You see all of that? So if it was distressed enough to look like this, then there's a really, really great chance that it will also peel off onto your transfer. And we never want that. So I would wax this as well. Now, any raw wood, any piece of wood that you want to chalk on that has not been finished with a smooth latex paint or a polyurethane, something that hasn't been finished, needs to be waxed. Like it needs, I'm stressing the word need, you need to wax that. Anything that has a latex paint actually, and I'm talking about like the interior latex paint or even exterior that you would use to paint something, like paint your walls or paint something outside, that creates a non-porous surface that is washable. Those paints are okay to chalk on just fine. In fact, unless it's a textured surface, if it's not a textured surface, I would even fuzz my transfer because I think it would be a really sticky surface to stick to, for the transfer to stick to. But if you use any, or if you know that the surface is chalk painted with one of these, like I always come back to this one where it's a very chalky texture and it can come off on your fingers, that needs to be waxed. Anything you paint yourself with a chalkboard paint or a chalked paint needs to be waxed. Chalked paint is actually, the finish of choice is a wax. So we do have little wax, they're really inexpensive, like $1.99 tubes of this. If you're just starting out and you just want to add one of these on so that if you find something at home that you want to use that you need to wax, add that on to an order. If you are all in and you are like in chalk heaven, there are different brands. I'm just going to show you what I use. It is a finishing wax. It has to be finishing wax, paste finishing wax. Doesn't matter what brand. Some people don't like this brand because the finish is natural, which means it's not like crystal clear. It's it can, I've not had any problems with it. I'm almost done with this. I've been using it for over a year. See how much is gone? But they do have some that are a clearer finish than what that is. Different brands. Okay. So, there are different ways to buy it. If you paint something, so I painted this with a chalkboard paint, and I will wax this if I choose to chalk on it. It's clear right now. This little wooden piece here, I waxed that because it was unfinished, and I don't trust the finishes of like inexpensive little things like this. It's a piece of wood, or if it's a piece of particle board or something, even if it has like a little paint on it or stain, I still don't trust it. I will wax it to protect my transfer. Okay, so now we have some of those things. Here's something else. If you ever want to chalk on something plastic, you absolutely can. It works quite well. This is a plastic pumpkin, and I put thankful on here. This I waxed beforehand because it just helps the chalk stick even better to that plastic. Now, I have done where I haven't waxed it and it worked, but I always like to do it because I feel like I think it will stick just a little bit better. So anything plastic you're going to want to wax. Now, let's go to my next thing. Things that you find that you will never wax, but you can still chalk on them. Glass. Never wax glass. Make sure it's clean so that there's no oils or anything on it, but make sure it's clean. Glass, mirrors, okay, those things never wax. Any of the little like galvanized or metal tins like this, you never have to wax that. If this were plastic, like this is actually a plastic thing, I would probably wax it just to make sure, but not on the metal. You would not wax that. This is just my fake little grass that goes back there. I've got some, so I'm going to show you that. Okay, let's see. It does look like an eyeball just staring at you. I'm sorry. Let's make it a pumpkin. That's so much cuter. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to tell you, there are some exceptions to the rule, and there are a few times when you actually may want to wax something over top of something you chalked. Now, so we have been playing around with wax for over a year now, trying to like figure out the ins and outs and what do you do with it. Sometimes when we chalk in layers, we do a first layer and then we chalk over top of that. And there's always a risk of your transfer pulling some of that chalk up when you do that. And so there are a couple things you do to help that. The first thing is to fuzz your transfer before you stick it to that first chalk layer. The other thing that we have tried is drying that first layer completely, which you always would do anyway, and then putting a thin layer of wax over it just so that transfer isn't actually sticking to the chalk itself, it's sticking to that wax layer. Okay, so we have tried those and those things have actually worked well. So that's kind of like something you would not think of on your own, but now I'm teaching you. So there we go. You never want to wax when you're using ink, our ink, okay? That's a totally different thing. Because ink needs to be heat set. And what happens to wax when you heat it? It melts. So not good. So don't wax when you're using the ink. And for the most part, ink is only going to be used when you are using fabrics or ceramics or something that can go in the oven. So you wouldn't necessarily use the ink on other things that might damage your transfer. It wouldn't happen. hopefully not. All right, so now we're going to talk about how to wax. So I'm going to move my notes and I'm going to go back to what I was doing down here, and I'm just going to show you. I can use it on, I can just show you right on this board right here. So you're going to want a cloth. You can use any like old rags, any lint free or lint, it doesn't matter. Just grab a rag that you don't mind getting completely gooped up and, you know, no big deal. If you're using the paste wax that comes in a little stick, this one is an old one, so it's like it's all crumbly, but you would just put some of that on and then you're gonna buff it around with your cloth. I'm gonna show you using this. So I'm just gonna dip it in and get some, you can see I have some on my rag, and I'm just gonna go in circles. And I bet I could, I bet I could zoom, and maybe you could, I don't know if I can, maybe if I do solo, I can probably zoom in a little bit. There, now we're like hyper zoomed. Oops, I don't need to be there in the middle of that. Let's do that solo for a second. Okay, so you're going to, I'm sorry, it's going now in and out of focus, so I'm gonna have to put it back. So we're going in circles. Yeah, I'm gonna put it back so that we don't have to do that. Ah, extreme close up. Sorry. That should be better. Going in circles, I'm waxing the whole board. You can go back in and get a little bit more if you think you need a little bit more, and just continue. I'm just going in circles. Once I have wax all over the board, I'm gonna, you can let it set for a minute. We used to have really strict timelines on how long to wax, which is kind of funny because I went ahead and did a whole bunch of testing myself and found out you don't have to. So after that, you go to a clean part of your cloth or get a whole new cloth and just buff it out. Just start in there and you're smoothing it out and you're like buffing it, getting any excess off. Okay, and there it is. It's done, it's waxed, and you can chalk on it now. So you can just put your transfer down, chalk, and it's good to go. We used to have to wait a really long time, like 24 hours, but I did a whole thing on do I have to or do I not have to? And I don't have to. So that is literally, oh, I should go back to my comments. I'm sorry. Okay, so who has questions about anything related to chalking, waxing, preparing a surface, anything like that? You don't need to ever wax a canvas. If you don't need to wax fabrics. Trying to think if I ever did wax anything unusual, and I don't think I had to. There is a surface that I highly recommend not using unless you know that you just want to make this one thing and you're not attached to your transfer very much. That is Slate. Our chalk looks gorgeous on Slate, but if you put your transfer on Slate, is the most volatile rock. It has it just peels. You know how Slate peels up? So when you stick your transfer down and you peel it up, you will have shavings and slivers and pieces of Slate on your transfer that will not come off. Nothing will get that off. And so I have tried waxing slate, which you would think, why would you wax slate? Because it's like our porcelain steel boards, but it's not. So slate is something that I tried to wax, and it worked. I did wax and less came up, but still some came up. It's just such a fragile piece of stone. It's just the way it just fragments so easily. So that is something that I actually stay away from unless I know. So I'm going to make something for a gift and I want it to be special. I want it on slate for some reason. And I know that I'm probably ruining my transfer. It'll work a few times after that, but it definitely, the life of your transfer will be worn if you use slate. Let me know if you guys have any other questions at all. You can comment right in here and I will follow the comments. What's even better, you can tag me. How did I get so out of... I must still be zoomed in a little bit. I don't know. I'm usually not in the middle of the screen. I'm usually in the corner, but now I'm in the middle of the screen. All right, so follow the comments. Oops. Oh, there are a whole bunch of comments on here. Whoa, they're just popping up. Okay, so I was practicing on the boutique board, and after I washed off the chalk, I could still see. Oh, what a great question, Judy. Okay, so she was using the boutique board, and after she washed off her, because you know those are reusable, so after she washed off her image, she could still see leftover word residue. And then she asked, did that mean I should have waxed first? No, that is called ghosting, and that is why we sell our board erasers. So these little board erasers, when you use water and this, they get rid of that ghosting. They wash it right off. Ghosting is a completely normal thing that happens with chalk use. It happens on chalkboards when you use regular chalk. It happens when you use chalk paste as well. Totally normal. This is your friend. I keep the little board erasers. I have one on my table and I love them. Any chalkboard, this will get that stuff off. And I've even used it on some painted surfaces where some of the chalk stained and I was able to get it off with a board eraser. And they're super economical. You get 2 big board erasers for like $2.99. Next time you order, you can add it, and super inexpensive. So I hope that answered that question. What about waxing on top of ink if you're going to layer it with paste? Reusable monthly chalk. Okay, so if you inked... Did you create, Karina, did you create a chalkboard with ink and did you make it permanent? Like, did you heat set it? Tell me how that works, because if you wax, I'm not sure. I think that if your ink is heat set, it's permanent and you probably wouldn't have to wax. Jerry missed what I said about the piece of wood under the pumpkin. How about the raw sanded wood? So you have to wax that, Jerry. And if you missed anything, you guys, this is going to be on replay. So you can watch it from the beginning and you'll get all the little tips. I rinse my glass with white vinegar before I chalk it. Gets all the grease and dirt off. Perfect. That's a great idea. Cleaning with vinegar is really awesome. Okay. Great. Any more questions? I think I've got them all. Wonderful. Okay. All right. We are all good to go. Again, if you have more comments or questions, just pop them down in the comments and I will check them out after, because I know this will replay over and over. I will be popping this over into my business page and my Chalk Nation, and I'm going to pop it into my team page for all of my team members to see. Oh, Karina, you know what? Karina, send me a quick message. I'm going to tell you how to do that. What I've done is I've used I've used chalk to create a chalkboard for the baby milestones, okay? And then you leave all of the things blank that you want to be able to fill in for each month, the new month, the whatever. Seal it all with a sealant, and then you can just go in and chalk the new things over that and wash just that off after it. So let's say you're doing 1 month and you put the 1 month and then you fill in those things. That can be washed off, but the other stuff will stay. So you don't have to do ink. You can use chalk and seal it. Okay, awesome. All right, you guys, have an amazing rest of your night and a great Monday morning tomorrow. And I will talk to you later. Bye, guys.